Welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné, and these are the top stories from across the continent. Dozens of Ghanaians have been killed on the battlefields of Ukraine as Ghana's foreign minister makes a direct appeal to President Zelensky. What lured these men into the deadly trap of war? The answer begins with misinformation. Hope on the horizon. A new sleeping sickness pill received a green light from European regulators, paving its way to Africa to protect over 60 million at risk from the deadly tsetse fly. And Paris Agriculture Fair celebrates African culture with many producers from the continent who came to showcase their products. Côte d'Ivoire shines as guest of honor, with shea butter stealing the spotlight. Ghana reports that at least 55 of its citizens have been killed while fighting in the Russia-Ukraine war. The country's foreign affairs minister, who just returned from a visit to Ukraine, urged President Volodymyr Zelensky to release 2 Ghanaian prisoners of war captured while fighting for Russia during the ongoing conflict. Our correspondent in Ghana, Justice Baidu, has more on this developing story.
Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa has been visiting Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, to try and secure the release of 2 Ghanaians who are now being held by Ukraine as prisoners of war. He's been holding talks and visiting the Wall of Remembrance with his Ukrainian counterpart, Andriy Sybiha, and also making a formal case for Ukraine to release these 2 people on the ground of mercy. Ukraine has told the Ghanaian foreign minister that their intelligence shows that more than 1,700 Africans have now been lured to join this war between Ukraine and Russia. Out of this number, more than 270, Mr. Ablakwa says, are reported to be Ghanaian. Ukraine also says that these 1,780 people are from 36 African countries, with 55 Ghanaians now confirmed to have died fighting in this war by Mr. Ablakwa. Ghana may well be one of the countries with the highest number of casualties, single African country with the highest number of casualties since the war began in 2022. Countries like Cameroon, Kenya, and South Africa have also reported their citizens dying in this war. Many of these victims are persons who have been trafficked by criminal gangs with promises of having a better life and secure jobs in Eastern Europe.
And for more on the Kremlin strategy to recruit African fighters, I'm joined now by Maya Anais yet again from our fact-checking team. And Maya, France 24's observers have verified footage revealing what's really happening on the battlefield.
Well, exactly. Usually we debunk videos. We show that they've been fabricated, that they're misleading. But sadly, I'm going to show you 2 disturbing videos that have been verified. So the first video you will see was filmed and shared by a Russian soldier. And the video is showing a group of men. You will see them clapping, singing, even dancing to a song linked to Uganda. And the caption said that they were African mercenaries. But if you listen closely, you're going to hear in the back a Russian soldier speaking. And the Russian soldier is saying, look how many disposables are here. They're even singing, so cheerful, no problem. Once they're sent to assault, they will sing a different tune. Now, another video, maybe even more disturbing, actually. The video is showing a man who answers to the name Francis, and he's wearing a Russian uniform, but he doesn't speak Russian. And the person who is speaking Russian actually insults Francis and tells him to, I quote, run, as he will be creating the opening today, meaning that he will be used to open a breach within the Ukrainian defences as part of a suicide squad. And indeed, Francis appears to be carrying, as you can see on this picture, a mine here, as you can see. It's a TM62 Soviet-era anti-tank blast mine strapped to his chest, to his body, as you can see on these pictures.
So, Maya, did you manage to find out who Francis was and where he was coming from?
Yes, exactly. So CNN managed to reach out to the mother of Francis, who said that Francis was 35 years old, that he used to live in Kenya, where he was unemployed. He left home because he was promised a job in Russia as an electrical engineer. But when he landed in Russia, well, he just got sent to Ukraine after just 3 weeks of military training. And his mother, sadly, never heard from Francis again. And sadly, once again, Francis is not an isolated case, because if you look at this map, you will see, just as Justice Baidu said earlier on the show, that almost 2,000 African nationals have been enlisted in the Russian army, coming from across the continent, from across the world, really, but also across the continent, at least 36 countries, including Kenya, Cameroon, Ghana, South Africa, and Egypt.
Maya, now that we've seen all these dreadful pictures, how come so many Africans still end up in Russia?
Well, it is a mix of targeted recruitment and deception, really, because the Kremlin first started by showing this kind of ads in Russian, obviously, but also in French, in Swahili and in other languages, trying to recruit willing fighters, usually using the network in Africa, the Wagner Group, especially in Mali and in the Central African Republic. These online ads were promising good conditions, like good pay, benefits, amazing opportunities if they wanted to join the Russian forces. And new recruits were offered, of course, significant bonuses, a good pay, tax breaks, and even a fast-track Russian citizenship for them and for their families. Russia also tried to promote this program by expanding on different success stories like this one in Togo, explaining that all the foreign recruits who decided to join Russia had amazing conditions, once again, that they were very happy to join the army. So obviously, some Africans decided to join willfully the army, but some didn't, because in the end, Russia is trying to make up for all the forces, all the human forces that they lost on the ground. So the strategy had to evolve. And so they decided to invite Russian influencers, African influencers, pro-Russian influencers to Moscow, and they were tasked with the idea of showcasing life in Russia, showing the different reels on Instagram, on TikTok, how life was amazing to African nationals if they decided to study in Russia or to work in Russia. Of course, Russia has always denied that they were illegally recruiting foreign mercenaries, but we have many witnesses who spoke, notably to AFP, explaining that they were lured into Russia by applying to civilian jobs, like, for example, security guards, salespeople, or even athletes. But with salaries advertised up to 2,400 euros a month, where they earned at least, I don't know, 100 euros in Kenya, for example, where these salaries were very appealing. But in fact, after being added to messenger groups on WhatsApp, on Telegram, even on Discord, hearing from success stories from people speaking their languages, well, in the end, when they landed in Russia, they had to sign contracts to join the Russian military and eventually to go to Ukraine. Meanwhile, real-life agencies handled everything from paperwork like visas or flight tickets, once again, to end up in Ukraine. And one last word from me, because women are not spared by this recruiting scheme in Russia. We have reports about 1,000 young African women from Ethiopia, Tanzania and Mali currently working in Russia, trying to build up drones, working up to 12 hours a day, when they were actually, they thought they were coming to work in the catering and hospitality industry.
Maya, what a tragedy. Thank you very much, Maya. And I say it again from our fact-checking team. Thank you for decrypting the fake from the truth. Thank you very much. Now, a deadly illness spread by the tsetse fly may soon be eliminated as a public health threat. Sleeping sickness, which has claimed hundreds of thousands of lives across several African countries, continue to persist in remote areas of sub-Saharan Africa. But a new drug developed by DNDi and Sanofi could help halt its spread. Dr. Luis Pizarro, Executive Director of DNDi, spoke with France 24 about what sets this drug apart from existing treatments.
The drugs that were used to cure sleeping sickness were horrible drugs. Some of them were done with arsenic and could even kill the patient. Then we were able to improve this and bring safe drugs, but that were very complex in terms of logistic. And as you know, maybe sleeping sickness is affecting people in very remote areas. So we needed something very simple that will be heat stable, easy to give to patients, and without hospitalization. So now acoziberol, it's a tablet. You take one dose and you are cured for all the stages of the disease. So it's really a revolution in the interest of the patients. It's possible to address a disease that was not interesting, the classical R&D, research and development system, that most of the time is driven by profit, by the interest, right, to make profit, financial profit. And here those patients, well, they live, as I said, in very remote areas. They are sometimes in very poor conditions. So they are not the main objective of the traditional research and development model. So what we have shown here is that if we decide to work all together, it's possible to have an alternative model and address the patient needs.
The Burundi-Tanzania border was jammed by a long line of buses transporting hundreds of repatriated Burundians back to their homeland. This follows the Tanzanian government's recent decision to dismantle 2 large refugee camps, part of an ongoing initiative that started in 2017 to repatriate thousands of asylum seekers. Many Burundians have fled their nation over the years due to persistent political instability and economic challenges. As these families return, they faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives in a country still grappling with significant issues. Let's listen to some of them.
Tanzania closed the market. They closed the schools, and our children were no longer studying. They destroyed our houses. We can't say the situation was good. We weren't allowed to move around. We were just like prisoners.
I'm happy to have come back to my country. I didn't flee the war. I was there for economic reasons. I'm pleased because I'm going to look for ways to survive here with my family, and the children will be able to go back to school.
Now known for its selections of wine, cheese and other typically French products, the Paris Agriculture Fair is also a window into African culture. Côte d'Ivoire is this year's guest of honor. France 24 met with African producers who came to showcase their products at the event. One of the stars of the show was shea butter. Laurent Bersécher and Awaf Diouf report.
It's the star product of African stalls at the Paris Agriculture Fair. This year, shea butter was displayed on nearly every counter. Raw, perfumed, or extracted into oil, it comes in every shape and color. Rose Mouaye Kouassi, who's been working in the shea industry for over 7 years, says growing competition has forced her to innovate and find ways to transform her product in order to stand out.
Shea generally has this really strong smell, which can be a bit off-putting for people who aren't used to it. And there can be issues with texture. Shea butter can get really hard, and you need to grind it down and heat it up in order to use it. So I decided to create these creams with lemon, strawberry, or vanilla flavor, which are a lot easier to use, even when it gets cold.
Made by roasting and grinding shea nuts, the butter is generally turned into cosmetics and skincare products and can also be used for cooking. It's become a staple for many African consumers and is starting to enjoy a growing popularity outside the continent. In recent years, several major producers, including Mali, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria, decided to ban exports of raw shea nuts in order to promote local production in a largely female-dominated industry. In Ivory Coast alone, around 150,000 women make a living working with shea butter. Gladys Obley hopes her line of high-end shea products can help reinforce women's financial independence back home.
Our mission coming here was to shed some light on the 1,500 women at the heart of our production chain, because without them, there wouldn't be any shea butter.
Growing naturally in the wild and easy to harvest, the products even earned the nickname of green gold on the African continent, where several countries have begun exploring ways to cultivate the shea nut on a larger scale.
And this report concludes this edition of Eye on Africa. Thank you for watching.
Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith.
All the latest in politics, economics and the arts in Africa on France 24. Our journalists are in every region, every country, to report on the emergence of a continent of unparalleled riches. Bringing you Africa's stories on France 24.
Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.